Project Management for the Masses podcast, episode 107. Crafting Your Plan with Traci Duez.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business, write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Cesar Abade.
Learn from the experts, think outside the box, have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
It's me. Traci Duez. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Traci.
You never know if you're going to say even more, but just with Traci Duez.
Yeah. Well, I was just that was just a pause, so we could get started. But I guess you jumped the gun there, so now we have to go.
Oh, geez, I did again. I forgot about the pause.
Yeah.
See, the new year, I just forget about the things from last year. It happens, you know? Yeah.
Uh-huh. There is a viral video that it's been around for like 10 years or something. It's called some people might recognize when I say Leroy Jenkins. It is basically, I think it's World of Warcraft, you know, that game.
Yes.
And it's a bunch of people playing together, and you can hear their voices because they're playing online. And they're like about to enter this realm or this room that's full of like gargoyles and demons that they have to fight. And there's all these dudes, video game, players, and they're coming up with all this strategy. Okay, you go in there and you go this and you kill this on this side. And then there's one player who's like, all right, I'm going in. His name is Leroy Jenkins, right? And he goes, Leroy Jenkins. And he walks into the room and everybody else is like, what? They just go in? Because now they have to go in too and start fighting, right? Oh, Leroy. Damn it. And then they go in and they get slaughtered, right? And everybody, Leroy, you're so stupid. What are you doing? So that was a Leroy Jenkins moment there when you.
Yeah, I jumped the gun. I didn't know the plan.
Except you're not stupid. That was actually far from it. Maybe that was a bad analogy, but anyway.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
So maybe we can share the link to that video on the show notes.
Yeah, there you go.
For context. So Traci, it is now New Year.
Yes.
We've been talking about changing the way we think, becoming different people in a good way, right? Like being more intentional about who we want to be. We just had Christmas and New Year's. It's a new year. People are making resolutions and setting goals for themselves. Hopefully they're, at least thinking about changing things in their lives. I know I am. So now we're going to talk about crafting your plan. So in the last episode, we talked about who we wanted to become, right? And then there was a freebie that you shared at the end of the episode, and also in the show notes, and people can find that at pmforthemasses.com/106. And if people took that short exercise that's in the freebie, they came up with a few words to describe who they want to become. So now we're going to talk about how we can actually have a plan to become that type of leader or project manager or just person that you want to be. Is that correct here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Because, and it's not just about focusing on that. Like, so say that you want to, I don't know, get a promotion at your job, right? So that's a goal that you have very little control over, right?
Yeah.
But what you do have control over is becoming the person who deserves to be promoted. And when you do that, when you get the attributes, as we talked about in the last episode, when you get those attributes, then you'll be okay. You're still going to be okay. Because that's the only thing you can control. And then maybe you do get the promotion, or maybe you find a job somewhere else, or start your own business. I don't know. But there are other opportunities will open up as you become the person that you want to become. So yeah, that's the first step: deciding who you want to be and the attributes that you need to get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's really recommended, like if you haven't gone through the exercise to decide who you want to be, then this is not going to make a whole lot of sense today. So, so go back, listen to episode 106, take do the exercise there, come up with your words, right? And then and then come back here. So press pause right now, go back, listen to that, and then come back. We'll wait. No, we won't.
No, we won't. We can't wait. That'll take a while. Yeah.
All right. So, so I guess the first step is then to decide who you want to be. Now this is, to me, it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, because everybody's saying out there these days is just like, be yourself, man,
Right. Yes.
So how can we decide to be someone else, first of all?
I want to touch on that. I love that you said that, because when people say be yourself, what people typically think is, hey, whatever comes to my head should come out of my mouth. Because, well, that's just me being me.
My Leroy, just like my Leroy Jenkins.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And in truth, that's not you being you, because a lot of the habits and the reactions that we have in our head, they aren't ours. I mean, I blame most of mine on my mom. She knows it. She's okay with it. But we have things in our brain that we didn't consciously choose. We didn't intentionally say, you know what? When this happens, I'm going to yell curse words. We didn't really say that, but somebody cut you off in traffic, and there you go. That's what happens. Because we've seen other people do it. Mm-hmm. Probably those people that play with Leroy Jenkins that were cussing at him. Yeah. Right. And so be yourself. Who is that? A lot of times you didn't decide. Your upbringing did, your education did, your environment did. And so this is a chance to really have you decide, how do you want to show up in the world? Right. So that's what those attributes are about, is you becoming intentional at looking at who you want to be, how you want to be described at your funeral, as it talked about it in the exercise. So you can then set goals, right? And practice being and becoming those attributes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's
what crafting
your plan means. Yeah. This is really powerful stuff. And I've seen it work in my life. I mean, I wasn't really trying to decide who I wanted to be, but I was trying to decide what I wanted to be associated with, right? Especially in this day and age where people just Google you, right? When they're if you apply for a job, everybody's gonna, any hiring manager or HR person, first thing they're gonna do when they get your resume is put your name into a Google box and see what comes up, right? So a few years ago, I really was into project management, and I was good at it, and so I want to be known for doing that, right? So that's why I was intentional in creating this podcast, for example, and writing a book. And now I'm at the point that if you Google my name, it's page after page after page on Google of project management stuff, the book and the podcast, me being interviewed here and writing a post there. And so that kind of worked. So what you're saying then, you can do the same, being intentional and creating a plan, and not deciding what you want to be associated with, but actually becoming a different person. Is that right? Yeah,
becoming more of who you are. And I love what you said, because everything that you were talking about is around how you want to be perceived as a human doing, right? But then when people listen to your podcast, when people work with you, then they get to know who you are, the attributes that you have, the integrity that you have, the authenticity that you have, whatever those words are for you, they get to know those once they see what you as a human doing. Now they get to know you as a human being. And so this is really about focusing on becoming the human being that you want to be. Mm-hmm. Right.
So that would be then the step one, is just to decide and, come up with those words, decide who you want to be. And then step two then would be practice, I guess, being those attributes. So how do we do that?
Well, it's the practicing part is about looking ahead and saying, okay, how can I be more whatever the attribute is that you have? Well, let's just say the attribute is intentional, because so how can I be more intentional? Well, what are some things that you can do to help you be and become more of that attribute, whatever that attribute is that you pick? So you can practice this in a number of ways. And usually we're already doing something in our life that allows us to practice it. And what's really funny is sometimes we don't like the thing that we have to do in our life, but then we look at it and we say, oh, you know what? That's going to help me. Like the dishes. Who likes doing the dishes? I don't know. But if one of your attributes is to be more consistent, well, then doing the dishes is a great way to practice consistency.
Uh-huh.
So you can turn something that maybe you have to do, or you feel in your brain that you have to do on a daily basis, you can turn that exercise into something you want to do because it's helping you become the person you want to be.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so let's say that you want to become more compassionate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or resilient. So you can practice this in a number of the different roles that you already have in your life. It's just a matter of changing the way that you look at it.
Yeah. Doing the dishes, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I know, I can use, just like I work from home and I'm a dad, right? I have 3 kids, and I tell you, just being a parent, you can practice any kind of attribute you want, you just name it. There's a way to kind of spin it into like, compassionate, resilient, intentional, right? Like, any little things like doing the dishes, like I usually do the dishes after dinner, and I can choose to use that moment as a way to practice some of these things. For example, I can decide that I want to be more of a servant leader, for example, right? Like I want to be a person who serves other people. So I can change my attitude around doing the dishes, right? So, I'm going to try to do this with joy and think of the fact that by doing this myself, I'm letting other people that who I love to take a break. And all of a sudden, just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, right?
That's right. Yeah. So doing the dishes, you're actually being loving.
Right.
Right. You're,
in other words,
or considerate or whatever. Right. Yeah. Whatever those words are that you want to be and become. And you get to practice that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, if one of your goals is to be, it's to be more efficient, right? Or you can turn that doing the dishes into a game. Okay, how can I do this in a more efficient way? And all of a sudden, you're practicing those attributes by doing something very mundane.
Absolutely. And that's really what practice is, right? I mean, if you've ever played sports or practiced musical instrument, it can be really boring and mundane doing the same things over and over again. However, you really know in the end, you're going to be able to do, right, whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's play an instrument or do well in sports or those kinds of things. And so sometimes we get stuck in our lives in the boring, mundane stuff, not realizing, hey, no, this can be used. This is very useful in helping us get to where we want to go in terms of being a human doing as well as a human being. And when you focus on that intrinsic piece, that being piece, it gives you more energy, more juice to move forward.
Yeah, there's a parallel here with the spiritual life. Like I remember thinking, those monks, that go and they spend, or nuns, let's say, they spend their entire lives in a monastery and they don't come out, right? They're cloistered, right? And I think, what are you doing with your life, right? And then you start reading some of the books that these people write, and like the interior life that they have is just so like light years ahead of mine, in terms of richness. Why? Because they turn everything into an opportunity like this, picking up a speck of dust off the floor to make because the floor is dirty, right?
Right.
They do that, and to them, doing that has so much meaning. I'm doing this for the love I have for the community here, and taking one for the team, and they get better. They become better people by doing that, without ever leaving a building,
Yeah. That is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to think, because our brains are meaning-making machines. And so they make meaning out of everything. The thing is that you control that. Mm-hmm. And so you can make meaning or find meaning in picking up that speck of dust, right? You can see it as crap. I have to pick up this damn speck of dust.
Yeah.
Or you can say, right, I'm serving the other people that live here, whatever it happens to be. I don't know. I'm not a monk, so I don't know what they say. But yeah, they turn it into something deeply meaningful. And a lot of us just go through life allowing the meaning that's always been in our head to be the meaning that we apply to it without taking the time to step back and say, no, how does this add value? How does this add meaning to my life? Because it is, everything we do is a human experience. And you get to experience that in the way you want to experience it. Even if it's something crappy, you can take a look at it and say, hey, you know what? This is what's going to come from this, or this is how this is going to end. I'm going to learn how to do. Have you read the book Tuesdays with Morrie?
No.
It's by Mitch Albom. It's a short little book. And in the book, he talks about going to visit an old professor at I think Brandeis University. I haven't read it in years, but I think that's what it was. Because his newspaper was on strike. He was a writer. And he went there, and Morrie was this old professor of his, and he visited him, and he had ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And so it was so neat how Morrie, in this book, he just experienced what he was going through. He didn't judge it. He didn't take it personally or whatever. He was like, oh, this is what it feels like to have somebody, wipe your butt. That's what he says in the book.
Uh-huh.
This is what it feels like to not be able to stand. So he went through the different things, and he just experienced it. And I think that's really what this is. Who do you want to be? And that's really what the book is about, who Morrie was and who he became through that illness. It was quite amazing. Anyways, it's a good book. We can link to it in the show notes too.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds like a good book. Yeah, and you talk about this, Traci. You talk about finding the value in projects. And I remember, I think it was the first time that I met you when you came here to town to speak at our PMI chapter, and you were talking about getting people to help, what was it, volunteers to do the Toys for Tots, food.
Yeah, the food bank. I talked about the Houston Food Bank.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. I think you talked about this on episode 2, but just in case people forgot.
Yeah, so it goes back to the 3 dimensions of value that I talked about when we talked about value dynamics. And people typically hear, if you volunteer at the Houston Food Bank, the second largest volunteer organization here in the city, because the Houston Rodeo is the number one, and if you go there, what you do if you volunteer is you typically make boxes, right? You make boxes of food that then get handed out to the people that need it. And so I volunteered there on the weekends, right? And I'll go there, and you create a little cardboard box, and you go around to the big bins of peanut butter and green beans and whatever's there. Weight Watchers or I'm sorry, Nutrisystem sends a whole bunch of food that's, about to expire or whatever to there as well. And so you put all this in a bin, and you box it up, and then you go put it on a skid, and then you go get another cardboard box, and you just do it again and again and again. And so typically people will spend around 3 hours doing that on their Saturday. They'll spend, and so I was asking at PMI meeting, and I used this story. I say, hey, how do you get them to stay longer? Right? And a lot of project managers or leaders, they'll say, feed them, real proudly. You just feed them. Yes. Okay, that helps. But usually they stay about another half hour, and that's about as much time as they spent eating. Right. Right. Or maybe they spend another hour, so you get another half hour out of them by feeding them. Right. Or, maybe you can turn on some TV so they can watch the football games on Saturdays or Sundays or whatever it happens to be when they're volunteering. Okay, all of that's good. But all of that is extrinsic, tangible stuff that you're giving them in order to continue to work. What you can do really to get them to continue it has to do with the intrinsic value, right? Mm-hmm. And so you remember how the story ends, right? How do you get them to stay all day?
You have them deliver the food to people. Right?
That's right. Yeah. And how many times do they have to do that in order to see the value that they're creating?
Oh, probably just once.
Just one. Yeah, exactly. It's just once, right? And so if you're on the back of the truck and you get to experience handing the boxes to the people that are in line coming up, and you get to see their face when you give them a box, right? And sometimes parents will send their older, teenage children up to get the box, or, maybe 10 or 11, 12. And so when a little kid comes up and gets the box and he goes running back to his mom and his brothers and sisters that are back there, and he opens the box, and you get to see this, right? Because you're in the back of the truck and you're handing out and you get to see what's going on. And he takes out the jar of peanut butter and he holds it up like a trophy over his head and said, "Mom, we got peanut butter." Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get to experience the joy that they have of getting that food. And by the way, the next time you go to fill a box, you know what you're going to put in every single one of them, don't you?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the intrinsic value, being able to feel that human experience, that connection to what you're doing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we can do that not just with our projects, but with ourselves. I think that's the point here today. So we can find the intrinsic value of the things. So we don't need to go climb Mount Everest to build our resilience, right? We can do that by finding moments of resilient exercising in the mundane things that we are already doing.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example there for resilience. I tend to think sometimes when people try to help me, they must obviously think I'm stupid. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I'm like, I can do this. Why are you helping? That's in my head. Right. And so resiliency to me is practicing. Okay. When somebody says they want to help you, right, instead of getting all frustrated, bounce back from that and just allow them to help you.
Yeah.
And so in something as, silly as that, right? It helps you become the person that you want to be and bounce back from the thought, because you're the only one. For me, I'm the only one that knows that's going on in my head.
Right.
But I want to bounce back, and I want to bounce back quickly. Cool.
All right. So there's a next step here, which is to set SMART plus goals around these attributes that you want to become. We know what's, I hope everybody, well, maybe you shouldn't assume.
Maybe we don't.
Yeah, maybe we don't know what a SMART goal is, but maybe we can refresh our memory and then talk about what SMART plus goals are.
Yeah. So SMART is the acronym that, I don't know, some guru came up with, right? Yeah. And it talks about, SMART means that your goals should be specific, and they should be measurable, they should be attainable, realistic, I think, and some people have different takes on some of these words, and time bound is what the T stands for. And so we'll set a goal like, I'm going to get promoted by the end of this year. And so we'll say, is that specific? Yeah. Measurable? Yeah, you'll know when you're getting promoted. Attainable? Yeah, I guess. Realistic? Sure, I can get a promotion. And then time bound? Yeah, by the end of the year is time bound. And yet, what you don't realize is that we have an unrealistic view of what realistic means. So you can do that. You can say that's a SMART goal, but then when it comes down to it, very little of that goal is under your control of achieving, right? So then you get frustrated because somebody else didn't do something to help you reach your goal.
Yeah.
And so
that is a problem, I think. And I think if anybody has led teams here, you recognize that attitude, if not on yourself, on other people that you lead or that you work with, when folks create an idea of how things should turn out, but this project, right, that this deliverable depends on so many other people doing the right thing, that when it doesn't work, people are just bitter. Well, this failed because so-and-so didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so people invest a lot of their emotional dollars into these results that depend on other people doing things a certain way.
Yeah. So I like to call these dreams. Like I dream of getting a promotion. Or if you want to still call it a goal, it's an outcome goal. And an outcome goal, in many cases, you have very little control over the outcome. Like as a project manager, we like to believe as project managers or leaders of some sort, right, that we are in control of our team. And that is such an illusion, right?
Yeah.
Right. So these outcome goals or these dreams, they're important. We want to know where we're going. They actually set our direction and maybe someday our destination, but we don't know. They're just setting our direction for right now. And they allow us the ability to set process goals. Right. And these are the things that you are in complete control of achieving, of doing or following the process.
Okay.
Right. So we have this dream of becoming these 6 attributes, and they're setting the direction of who we want to be and who we want to become. And now we set process goals around achieving those.
Okay. Do you have an example?
Sure. Of course I have examples. I'm a speaker. I always have an example, right? So let's say my goals, and these are goals from the past, right? I wanted to be more decisive. I wanted to be more self-forgiving, courageous. I wanted to have more integrity. Not that I didn't, but that was an important one. I wanted to grow that. I wanted to be fun, and to have fun, and I wanted to be fair. So those are 6. So when I looked at my life, I looked for ways that I could then practice those attributes. And so I have been for the last, 12, 13 years, umpiring Little League Baseball. And here in Houston, Texas, we umpire in the spring, which is not too bad. But then we also umpire in June and July, which, oh my goodness, when the heat index is about 113 or something like that. And
I was
you don't
say,
know that.
I'm in Canada. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and then you use that other what am I trying to say? Not Fahrenheit, right? You use the other way to measure temperature as well.
The right way, yeah, we do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called Celsius or centigrade.
Exactly.
Yeah,
centigrade. It's called 2 things. That's what's so confusing to me. I don't know which people use. Right. So anyway, I had been umpiring, and then I looked at my 6 words, and I thought, wait a minute, how could I use these? I mean, can I use umpiring to become more decisive? Well, of course you can, yeah. Right? And to be self-forgiving. Well, yeah, because I don't know if you know this or not. This is top secret stuff here from the umpire world. Sometimes we make mistakes. Yeah. And we'll call a pitch that was like around somebody's eyes. We'll call it a strike, even though it's not. And then people will say, "Oh, then you do a makeup call." No, I don't do a makeup call. I have to forgive myself for making a mistake and move on. Just stay present. So I get to practice being self-forgiving. Do I get to practice being courageous when I'm umpiring? Well, yeah, right. Not only is somebody throwing a ball at you and there's only a little kid right in front of you trying to catch it, but no matter what you call, one side is going to say you're wrong. Right? Mm-hmm. Usually it's the grandparents that are the worst.
Throwing apples at you and stuff.
Exactly. Thankfully, there's a fence there.
That's why you guys wear the protective gear, right?
Right. It's for it doesn't matter about the baseballs. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can I practice can I practice integrity, right? Can I practice fairness? Can I practice fun, right? Yeah. And so I now see umpiring as a way for me to become the person I want to become. And now I set SMART, and I'll tell you what the plus means here in a minute. I set SMART goals around umpiring. So my SMART goal is a process goal. It is a goal that says I will umpire 2 games a week during the season. So is that specific?
Yeah.
2. Measurable?
Yep.
Yeah. Attainable? Yeah, if we don't have Hurricane Harvey come through, yeah. Realistic? Absolutely. There's no, you don't get blocked out from umpiring games, right? Because besides I'm a volunteer, so they like that as well. I can get a game anytime I want. And is it time bound? Yes, it's per week. Now the plus part is it under my complete control?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a hurricane.
Right. And so now that it's under my complete control, I can look back every week and say, hey, did I accomplish my goal? And if I didn't, I can't blame my boss. I can't blame my mom. I can't blame anybody, because it comes back to me. Mm-hmm. And so then I get to decide, okay, what am I going to do this coming week in order to achieve my goal, and to not let the things that caused me not to achieve it last week get in my way. And when it's under your complete control, that's really the key. And that's the plus part of it. So many of us set goals that aren't under our complete control, and then we get frustrated and discouraged. And I mean, how many people at the beginning of a new year don't even set goals anymore?
Right. Okay. I see. So it's I get it. So it's basically be realistic about a goal that and because you can exercise these attributes doing pretty much anything, you can make these goals fairly simple, like you did, like, just umpire twice a week. Yes. And then what you do with that time, that's when you step in and exercise, the attributes, and during those 2 times a week. Yeah, absolutely. And I have a group that I coach Wednesday nights, and we've been coaching together for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And they'll put in there, like, because I asked them, hey, what are your attributes for the coming year? And they put in, a number of them put in patience, like that they want to have more patience, right? Uh-huh. And so then I ask, how are you going to practice that? And it's fun. It makes it fun, because they're mainly managers or directors. Maybe they own their own business. And so now they get to look at that annoying team member and say, this is my opportunity to practice becoming the person I want to become. Uh-huh. And so it makes it less stressful in terms of some of the things that aggravate us in our day-to-day or frustrate us in our day-to-day. We can say, okay, no, I really want to become more patient, and this is going to allow me to do that. Right. So I loved what you said in terms of this is going to, it allows you to look at the things that you already do and do it from just a slightly different perspective. Beautiful. That's cool that you do that too, by the way. It makes you you're like sportsy and stuff. Which I'm not.
Sportsy and stuff.
Yeah,
huh?
I've seen your pictures on social media, and you look very keen and intentional when you're in your gear.
Well, here's a news flash for you. Just sidebar here. I'm going to get to be on ESPN again this year, I think. Ooh. So yeah, August 2nd or 4th through the 8th or something at the Little League Southwest Regional. I'm going to be umpiring there again. It's going to be fun. Yeah. So it's always been one of my goals. Like, my outcome goals was to get on ESPN. And then when I did that back in 2014, I met my outcome goal. But in order to do that, I had to be a really good umpire and have some of those attributes, right? Yeah. So
I guess you could get on ESPN by being a very bad umpire too.
Well, not in Little League too much, but yeah. Or I could just wear like a rainbow afro on my head and stand in the end zone at a football game. I could do that too, but that's not what I wanted.
What attribute would that be? I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Well, maybe you can let us know when you're on, because I don't really watch ESPN. Sorry, but
I know I could tell.
But you're not judging me. That's okay.
No, not at all.
But maybe there are a few people out there who don't watch it either, and maybe you can share a link to whenever that's on.
Yeah, I will.
Cool. Right. That is awesome. All right. So we talk about coming up with our attributes. We talk about practicing our attributes. We talk about setting these SMART Plus goals. Give us a good example of that. And so what's next? What do we do after that?
What's next is setting up a time regularly to review your progress towards your goals. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people overlook when it comes to goal setting is reviewing their progress. And the reason I know that is because when I go talk at PMI meetings or to, PMO groups within corporations, what happens is I will ask them, hey, what is it that you celebrate? Like, do you celebrate? And they're like, celebrate? Well, when the project's over, we celebrate, but then we just go on to the next project. And I'm like, yeah, but there's things along the way that you could celebrate. And they'll say, huh? And I'll say, do you ever use these things called milestones? And they'll be like, yeah, we get to them, we check them off, and we just keep going. Well, that doesn't provide much motivation.
Right.
Right. So being able to review regularly, not just have the post-project review, but review on a regular basis, whether that's weekly or monthly, depending on your goals, it's going to allow you to make adjustments throughout the process. So Benjamin Franklin used to do this every day. He used to set his intention at the beginning of the day and say, hey, what good am I going to do today? And at the end of the day, he'd ask himself another question. He'd say, hey, what good did I accomplish today? And I think that's really important, is to be able to review those.
That Benjamin Franklin guy, he was onto something.
He was. He really was.
His name comes up everywhere. Like every time you talk about like being better or doing great things, it's like, oh, Benjamin Franklin used to do this, and like,
yeah, we accomplished a lot, so I guess that's why they do that.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So review your progress, and I've talked about GTD, getting things done here. I mean, if you are a GTD person, or if you're a project manager actually, and you do any sort of monitoring, controlling, a lesson learned exercise with your team, you know what that's like to review progress. So we're just asking you to do that for the most important project that you have, which is your life, right? And who you want to be. So once you set your goals and you start working on them, just make sure that you review them. Like I like to do a blog post beginning of the year, and I think we shared this last time. My 3 words for the year. I still haven't done it for 2018, but it's going to come out soon. And then halfway through the year, I like to look at it. So like, how am I doing here? But maybe we should do that even more frequently. Yeah.
Yeah. If you set goals around those 3 words, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would recommend, because we focus so much in our culture today. We focus so much on doing. And that's why people at the end of their lives, they'll get to the end and they'll just say, well, wait a minute, I didn't spend time with my family, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. We're focused on the doing piece of it. And if you focus on who you want to become, yes, while you're doing stuff, you get to, at the end of your life, say, you know what? Yeah, look at this stuff that I accomplished, and I became the person I wanted to be. I was able to love my family and those closest to me. I was able to have integrity. And that's the cool thing. And you get to, nobody can ever take that away from you.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So Traci, we talked about your webinar that's coming up for a few episodes now. And I think that is the perfect segue from all the content that we shared here. So people can actually make this real and take the next step. That it's not just sitting and listening to a podcast while they drive, but actually, it's like the difference between watching American Idol and actually phoning in to vote, It's a different kind of attitude, right?
Wait, they let Canadians do that?
Wait a minute. There was a Canadian Idol. I don't know if they do it anymore. We ran out of people.
Yeah.
To compete.
It's funny. Yes. Yeah. So you can tell as I went through this, you ask yourself a lot of questions, and then we end up with these goals that are statements, and so nobody likes to be told what to do. And so the webinar is going to be about how to turn your goals into questions that you ask yourself on a regular basis. It's called Ask and You Shall Achieve. And it's a perfect way to kind of bring all of this together and learn about the 3 questions that you should be asking yourself regularly, as well as I'm giving you 3 questions that you want your team to be asking regularly as well, so that they can be engaged and motivated to move forward. So and achieve the goals that you have here in the new year or on your new project, whatever it happens to be.
Awesome. And again, the webinar is on January 9th, which is 4 days away here. Actually, by the time this is published, it's going to be pretty
The next
soon.
day.
The next day.
Yeah.
And then January 10th. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Tuesday evening and Wednesday, if you're in the U.S., Canada area, around lunchtime. So
Okay. So if you're listening right now, I'd like to hang out with Traci and potentially myself. I'm gonna be there too. Probably you won't be able to listen to me, but do you have a chat? Do you have a
I have a chat. I can take you off mute. Yeah, we can do all. We're using a Zoom meeting for it, so yeah, we're good.
I'm gonna have to do my hair, I guess. Okay. Yeah. So this is totally free. So if you want to hang out with us for that hour on those 2 days, go to pmfromthemasses.com/107, which is the show notes for today's episode. There's going to be a link there for you to sign up. And full disclosure, Traci is going to promote something at the end there, but you don't have to sign up for it. You can come to the webinar for totally free and absorb the content, connect with us and other webinar attendees, and take that home and work on that and have a better 2018. So again, pmfromthemasses.com/107. Did I leave anything out, Traci?
No, but hey, there will even be a workbook for that, so that you will actually have something to take with you and use beyond the webinar as well. So yeah, that's all good.
That's insane. It's all sorts
I
of
know.
free things. All right, Traci, again, it's always so much fun to talk to you. And I think we should let people know, like, we actually have, before we record, we have it could be another podcast, just the conversations that we have before we start recording. Maybe we should do another show called, Adventures of Traci and Cesar.
There you go.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So you're a good friend. Thank you so much for being a part of this series. You're going to come back. I mean, I think this is kind of the bow on the end of this series, I guess, but we're going to continue doing the podcast, talking about different topics. But knowing you and knowing me, I think the topics will always kind of gravitate around this type of stuff, like being better, being intentional, values and things like that. So if you like this kind of content, even if as this series wrap up, just stick around. There's going to be more. And
yeah, we might even want to ask them to write in the comment section, like what other topics they are interested in, because they listen to your show already, so they already kind of know, right?
That's right. Yeah. So go to pmfromthemasses.com/107. Let us know what would you like us to talk about, and if it's legal, moral, and safe, we will do it. And yeah. So Traci. So Traci, thank you so much again, and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, Cesar. This has been awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
PMforthemasses.com